After dealing with the COVID-19 cloud, they for sure thought it would be smooth sailing for a bit. After all, they were the only craft around, and Thaddeus couldn't see much besides planets and stars. Turmeric could, of course, see all the microscopic life that Thad couldn't, but Turmeric was so used to that, and so they floated on in space just enjoying the sights. But then something shifted. It was almost as something woke. Their course wasn't altered, but something felt off. Seemingly out of nowhere, a bunch of ships appeared, screaming into space. Unfortunately for their language, space is a vacuum, and so no sound was actually heard by anyone. The vibrations did annoy some of the microscopic beings, but they were used to having to move around other things. It was then that they all had some kind of sudden self-realization at once and began projecting letters into space with lights. "You don't deserve your moon. You never took care of it before it left, and you won't take care of it when it's back," one of the signs read. Another beamed, "Livid lunar lamina, unliking all your loquaciousness." "That's some solid vocabulary," Thaddeus commented. "Protesters back home aren't usually so well spoken." "I think you may have spoken too soon," Turmeric retorted, and as Turmeric stated that, a sign beamed out into space. "Atmospheres, spelled wrong, are overrated." "So, Lumina, so these are parts that have broken off of the moon?" Thad thought out loud. "Yes, it appears so. I wonder how long ago they broke off and learned to make ships." "I wasn't aware of any rock forms being able to make ships. Maybe someone gave them to them," Thaddeus scientific methoded. "That seems more likely now that you say it," Turmeric agreed. "I spent a lot of time inside and researching, and one thing I found out was that the internet age led to a lot of people going from taking no action at all to overcorrecting everything. I haven't said it until now, but our swearing would be considered excessive nowadays, and we'd be banned from all social life as we know it. Another thing I learned was that although there are many people that show up to a protest and ruin it, the more likely factor is that someone sent them there to change the narrative. Many peaceful protests have turned into violent ones thanks to undercover cops and agents of government organizations. But the same amount have also been turned by some idiot that showed up. So, I guess it doesn't matter. Someone's going to mess everything up along the way, no matter what you do. Turmeric logicked the crap out of that situation. "So, what do you think we should do?" Turmeric asked. "I think if this were a show, there'd be a commercial break right now. But let's break some commercial objects instead. Whoever's funding this protest is going to be pissed. But maybe we should have your microscopic friends, who are always so mad about moving out of the way, handle them." Thaddeus triumphed. "No problem, I'll let them know." Turmeric ended any chance for a commercial break. It wasn't even visible it happened so quickly. The ships were suddenly gone from existence, and their route was no longer blocked. Who the hell would sponsor a protest against saving the moon, though? And how did they even know about their mission? Chapter 7. Stop looking at your phone and keep reading this book. If you think concentration is hard now, think about how hard it'll be in the future. The little black screen in your pocket is stealing your soul and your money. So it's no surprise then that the protest against the moon was funded by all of the cell phone companies, which in the future is just one giant company that operates under different names to avoid certain taxes. Why did I spoil this plot element? Because you were looking at your phone again. And I want you to know that as much as it helps with certain things, it's destroying so much of your potential. I know you can do better. I'm dealing with the same problem. Let's throw our phones away and do better. Chapter 8. Back to Space. Meanwhile, on Earth, the largest phone company, whose name we cannot afford to publish in this story, was confused as to where the signal of their ships went. "We cannot advertise the best service in the galaxy and fail to know why we lost signals," the CEO shouted. "Don't be such a stereotype," is what his worker wanted to say, but instead said, "You're the CEO. You know that those advertisements are complete horse shit." "That's not the point," the CEO continued to yell, and then got lost in what to say and got a little quieter. The point is, without the moon, we can build a new one that will provide us the greatest access to everyone's information and ensure that everyone is forever connected to their phones." The worker was impressed. "I now see why you're the CEO." "Of course you do. Now go and fuck my wife because I'm too busy to." The CEO was not too busy to do such a thing. He was just a horrible, horrible person. Luckily for everyone who hates those kind of people, the sun had decided to shoot off the biggest flare it had ever shot off of itself in response to the moon's protesters. It hadn't realized that Thaddeus and Turmeric would act so swiftly, and it really didn't want to be roped into providing the light at night. So it set forth the largest solar flare in recorded existence. The upside was the technology that we cling to like a life force was absolutely decimated. The downside was, well, where do we begin? With nothing backed up on paper records since the early 2000s, most of what modern man knew was gone. Robots were in charge of making most things by now, and when they were shut down, their bosses did not know how to do their jobs. Sounds familiar, right? Everything is unfortunately so automated and computerized that everything halted. The world was stopped. Water became completely unsafe to use, as if it wasn't already unsafe enough. The sewers backed up. The gas companies were at work trying to prevent every civilized area from blowing up. It was the biggest mess in recent years.